Okay, it is 1st of January 2025, 9:19 p.m. Um so as it's New Year's, I'll be talking about, you know, I think reflecting on the previous year and talking about my goals and also relation to my last year's video or journal entry. And yeah, I think the first thing I notice is I watch that and I look at myself in the camera and like, damn, I look different. Um, Definitely look thinner, which is good. I was a bit worried because I I was a bit worried because I was eating a lot during New Year's, but it's fine. I have been keeping sort of 2 meals a day consistency throughout the year, or at least since the second half of the year, I think. Or since I graduated, maybe. But I think it's good to know that I was able to sort of maintain that. I hope I can continue maintaining it. But I'm going to start off before I really get into. Uh, Before I really talk about this looking back at 2024, I want to just talk a bit about my previous video because I think some of the things I said are very good reminders because the way my perspective has changed in a way that I kind of forgot certain things I said, although it was still kind of in the back of my head. And the main thing that I forgot is about anti-telos, telos that I talked about. That one reason I'm against teleology is that life isn't simply a linear line. That you just move up and progress. You might regress, but usually you keep progressing. Because life isn't that. It's reductionist, right? Life is dynamic. It's shifting, changing. There's no linearity. Well, there could be some sense of linearity, but most oftentimes things happen that sort of deconstruct the experience of linearity because of how much you regress or because you just transition. There's a change that is more horizontal than vertical, or it's moving on the z-axis rather than x or y. It's just things change that and things change in a way that's not necessarily progressive or regressive. And so it's, I would say, philosophically unhealthy, possibly, to view one's life as a telos. But then, as I said last year, that being said, it's still nice to include some acknowledgement of teleology because it provides some sort of fulfillment. And 1 year later, I agree. But I see that I have shifted more towards pro-teleology. And I think it's good that I recognize anti-teleology. And part of me thinks I was and still kind of am anti-teleological. I actually don't even know if I'm saying these things right, but if I'm rewatching it, I understand what I'm saying. So One reason why I believe I might be anti-telos, is because I want to soften the blow when I fall. Although anti-telos has truth to it, I believe I had a strong subscription towards that belief because I experienced massive regression, or that I experienced massive regression that hurt me, and I didn't want to believe in the idea that life I didn't want to believe in the idea that I did regress substantially and that I can regress again, I think. Although I was very adamant last year that I did talk about how I did regress. But at the same time, I still think there's a part of me that tried to put a veneer over it, try to soften the blow of devolving, of digressing. And but then at the same time, one reason I want to still bring back anti-telos into my perspective or within my mind is because I think it's okay to have that cushion. That if I'm so focused on goals and then I fall hard again, if I have that cushion, I can be like, hey, that's life. Shit happens, things change. Not everything is about moving towards a goal. So I just want to keep that in mind. And also the fact that I have kind of been so goal focused, at least towards the second half of the year. It's good that I can take a step back and see how I can do certain things. They're not necessarily goal focused. But as I'm saying this, I can't really think of what I can do that's not necessarily goal. I do procrastinate a lot. I do play games a lot. That's not really goal focused, but alas. So I guess maybe I already know what it's like to not focus on goals and to just live. Although there's a cognitive dissonance, right, when I'm playing games, because I feel like I might be wasting my life, for example. So, some things to unwind there, but I'm glad I rewatched last year's video, and I'll probably think about that. Maybe I'll forget it by tomorrow, but I'll just come back again next year. And possibly from the way I'm talking, my tone, it's hard to tell, but maybe I sound more positive. Or in my body it sounds positive, but possibly when I see the recording, I have the same exact tone. Who knows? However, I want to say I do sound different. My tone's different. One, because possibly I've made more videos, so I've become a better speaker. Maybe? I don't know. But the other thing is I do feel like I'm in a better mood. And that could be a multitude of reasons. One is that I started off last year still in university. I was working on my thesis. I was stressed. I was studying. As much as I like studying, I was stressed from the study. Oh, pressure. I felt pressure. And there's other stuff I'll go to. But in terms of that, I don't have that anymore because luckily I graduated. I didn't get cum laude like I assumed. Well, I didn't need to assume. I could already tell from my grades. but at least I got an honors, which is good enough. And grades aren't really everything. But I successfully graduated with a life sciences degree, with minor in biomedical research, and a minor in like film arts philosophy minor. It's about like visual cultural studies. So those are the fields that I was interested. I'm glad I was able to get degrees on that. And they're also topics that I'm going to continue to pursue. So that's going well. I talked about certain internships I was planning. There was one internship that was happening. That's finished. That took longer than expected. It started from February, ended right before my graduation in August. But that went decent. So I took basically me and one other person. We went around the zoo, taking inventories of lichens. I got to learn a lot about different species of lichens. That was very cool. And then I say we, but I was the one that was doing all the quantification and did 80% of the paper. But I did do the research on basically the abundance and diversity of lichen species in the zoo. And then we also did a nice presentation to some of the workers there. So that was a good success. It's good on my CV. And I talked about work. This is a bit. I'll start talking about part-time. Okay. So with part-time, this was an interesting development. So I started off with working under employment in this agency. During January, I was gonna take the shift. I had a shift on the day I was recording the New Year, New Me journal entry. And then I talked about how there isn't that many shifts. It got to the point where there was no shifts at all for 2 to 3 months. And then by the time the shifts started appearing back, I was really busy. I say busy on my thesis, but there was a lot of procrastination involved as well. But then again, I did invest a lot of time in my thesis, and I was busy. I was stressed, really stressed with my thesis. So I ended up not taking any shifts, and then came to a point where I had to renew my work permit. But then the admin guy was like, I was talking to the admin guy at the work agency, and I talked about how once I'm done with my thesis, I can come back. So the guy's like, okay, then let's not renew for now, and then comes when the time comes where I can start working again, we can talk and renew the work permit. That sounds great. Well, turns out this agency has been kind of a dick before, because they would cancel my shifts and they'll never explain. Well, so there was already that, but then, and also low pay. But then, when it got to the time when I was done with everything, I was like, right after I finished my thesis and all my assignments were done, I was like, hey, I'm ready to work again. I'd like to renew my work permit. And the guy was like, I'm not going to do that. We don't need any more people. It's like, what the fuck, you know? And that was also my only source of work, basically, at that time. So that that was terrible, especially since I struggled to find a job to begin with. So it was I felt like shit. And insult insult to the wound, salt on the wound, insult, whatever the saying is, was that I think a month later, a few weeks later, I got an Instagram ad from that agency saying they're hiring. So clearly the guy was lying, and it was more to do with something personal. Maybe because I complained before that they were not explaining why my shifts were getting canceled. I don't know. Maybe they were just very unprofessional. Whatever the reason is, it didn't work out. But then things were not all that terrible because I moved to a new agency that pays €8 more per hour. Which is great, which is a freelance thing that I started. And I haven't taken that many shifts actually throughout the year. I took some shifts during June, July, I think. I was trying to acclimate myself once a week and then slowly doing more. But then the moment I started doing consecutive 2 days, I got an injury. And I got a knee injury. And the other thing was that I was so tired from the part-time work, or that kind of depleted my focus, like productivity energy. It's kind of an excuse, but productive energy that... No, what was the reason? One was that I got a knee injury, so I couldn't work anymore. But the other thing is, I was getting injury, and I was so tired of this part-time work. I was like, wait, I wanted to do part-time work for a bit to take a break from everything, like kind of a gap few months, not a gap year, but a gap few months. And I was like tired again, so I was thinking, wait, why don't I just focus on actually getting a full-time job then? Because at least I can invest in something that I was supposed to work for in the future. So June, July, I did a bit of the hospitality part-time, but then I stopped. And then August came. It was my graduation. My family came to visit me for a few weeks. A little busy because my grandma, my dad, my mom, my parents are divorced. My grandma isn't really coming here, with either of my parents. So I had to cater the schedule to 3 different individuals instead of one party. But I managed to arrange a schedule in a nice way so that I was able to hang out with each of them an appropriate amount of time in terms of how much they were able to stay here. So I thought that was good. So August, didn't do much. And before I get more, some other things I wanted to... No, you know what? It's fine. I'm gonna continue. And then so I continued. And then after August, I was like, okay, now it's really time to start searching for a job. Because I wasn't really searching. Oh, end of August. And then I took some workshops at the start of the year for career searching and how to network or how to write CV, how to present myself, everything to do with career, job searching. So I had that to start off with. And I looked at myself and thought, okay, I don't really know where to start. But one thing I know is that I'm supposed to network. Because I guess I already kind of knew. Because I did mention last year that I sent an email to someone asking for some help networking. The way I talked about networking was short. I don't remember how I conceptualized networking in my head, but I would say it's a bit different from how I understand networking right now, which is great because that means I learned something. So in the email I sent, what happened was I was asking for a job at the zoo, but the guy said no. Basically, I don't remember the details, but I just know he said no. But I did also give my CV to the guy that, the department head of the botanical garden at the zoo. But the moment he folded it in my face, he said, "Oh, thanks," and he's gonna keep it. But the moment he folded it right in front of my face, I thought, okay, this guy's not gonna give me anything, and it's fine. Because it's not. I would have kind of been interested in working at a zoo, but at the same time, I was pushing for a position there, because I had no clue. I had no lead. So now I was back to square one from square 1.1. Okay, I need to figure out what jobs are actually there, or I need to figure out ways to talk to people in the industry. I say industry, but I wasn't even sure what the industry was. So I forgot how I found the website, but I found this one website. Oh, I found this website about the job fair, I believe. Job fair of life sciences. It's by, I think I can say, yeah, Hyphen Projects. There was gonna be a big job fair in end of November. So I saw that and I was like, okay, that would be my end goal. That I'm gonna do networking, talk to people, learn about more of the industry, and then at the end I'll put everything I learned into job fair. And one other, the biggest thing that the website provided me, other than that, we're gonna have a job fair at the end of November, is that it showed a video talking about science parks, which I studied in life sciences for 3 years. I guess 3 years, and I never knew about science parks in Netherlands. I think I already talked about how I live in Netherlands. Oh well, who cares? Well, there are science parks. They're big science parks, and so that was like a big lead. Like, oh, okay, there's science parks, and so I searched up these science parks, and then the science parks had these bulletins talking about these events. I was like, oh wow, perfect. So I started signing up to these events. It's like seminars, networking, and through there, and I got to talk to people. I learned about I learned about the existence of biotech basically in pharma. Like, I knew about them, but I didn't really know about them. So I learned about biotech pharma. I learned about how they're different. I think there's certain overlap, but I think the main takeaway is that pharma is more of a business, and biotech is the one that does R&D. And when biotech is becoming successful, the farmers just acquire their product. Um, so that's what I understood. That's biotech pharma. And I got the chance to talk to a few people with their own startups or business that they've been developing for years. People who just work in the industry in different roles. I learned about BD. I talked to someone in quality control. I talked about someone who, I guess, more in the logistics work, providing he said any equipments and items for lab work. What else did I talked to a bunch of different people. I talked to people outside of the industry too. Sometimes they're at the events. Sometimes I go to events that's a little outside of the industry, or something's completely outside the industry. I went to like a fair for expats. That was interesting as well. I went to a little seminar for archaeology, which I thought would be more like on the paleontological side, but it was like anthropocentric archaeology. But I guess archaeology more or less means humans more than dinosaurs. But I got to talk to people in the archaeology space, which is new. I've never really touched on archaeology. I never talked to someone who studies archaeology. There was one person that was really passionate and talked about stuff. I just couldn't get myself to be interested because it was talking about specific ways, this like minuscule thing you have to look for in artifacts to tell what year it's from or something. It was cool, but I was like, okay, yeah, I'm already forgetting about it, but it's still, the passion was fascinating, and it was just a unique talk. So yeah, that was cool. I still learned about certain stuff about that could sort of be applied to environmental science. So I gave certain information about it to my environmental science friend, but yeah. And then talked to people, networked. I think one of the best networking experience was I got to talk to this guy who owns a business to do with helping out heart disease. And it went well, the talking, and we still email each other from here and then. And he gives me interesting insights as, I guess, the CEO of a startup. The people he has to talk to, the things he has to go through to develop his product. And that is such a unique and rare experience. I think that's really cool that I get to learn from someone like that. I wouldn't say it's like a mentorship, but I guess it's something close to a mentorship. And that's really cool. And he happens to know a guy in the venture capital space who has a job position. So, although it's a bit iffy, and I had like an online talk. I emailed him. It looks like I'm getting the job, but he hasn't responded me in a month now. So I don't know what's going on, but he just said it's gonna start in February. So we'll see about that. Um, but one thing I realized living in this country, dealing with scammers, dealing with thieves, dealing with exploiters, is that you need a lawyer. Since this is suspicious, I happened to talk to a lawyer at the fair, and I wanted to have some lawyer service. Lawyer service? So she referred me to another lawyer, and this lawyer is going to help me make sure, do the due diligence on this job. So that's great. That is great. So then I also did some other lawyer stuff, which is to do with this house. It's a lot less promising, and part of me thinks maybe because they're a little unprofessional. Well, I say unprofessional, but maybe it's just their English is not the greatest. And they haven't responded recently, although it's like Christmas vacation, so that's probably one. But hopefully soon they respond again. But then I have to talk to them. But yeah, they are supposed to help me a bit with the contract. So, yeah. That. And then, what else? And so, but anyways, with the networking, I got to learn also about different companies, a lot of different companies. I also, yeah, was able to make my CV look better. I also, did a bunch of different. And then, the boss battle, the job fair comes. It was a bit anticlimactic. I thought I was gonna get a job there, but a lot of it was the people just presenting about their company and their product. So I was a bit disappointed, I thought. But then, I guess a month later, I find a job opening at a company that I know because I've also been to the company's building for certain events. I hear their company everywhere, and their company was at the job fair as well, and I talked to them. And so I applied to this company for a position. And turns out the recruiter was someone I talked to at the job fair. So she said she recognized my face on my CV, and that's why she chose me for an interview. The call interview went great, I think. Well, I think it went great because now I'm going to get a final interview next week. So that could be it, Maybe I'll get a job finally. Which, to be fair, at the start of the year, my thought was I will have a job within last year. I didn't. Well, I have a part-time job, but it's not really. But maybe next year will be a full-time job. But one thing, I can't be too hopeful, although I will work hard for the preparation, as if I do have a lot of hope. But then it's also good to recognize that there's a chance that I won't get it. And that, there's regression and life is dynamic, yada yada. I would like to make sure I can soften the blow, because I don't do well with blow, because of how my mind is a bit weak, which I think is a good segue to something else that probably is why I have become more positive. Which I guess is also connected to networking, but I will go through this other section that I want to talk about in terms of basically mental health. So, since I moved here, well, even before moving, I was not doing that well. I kind of got better, but I moved to this country and I did not do well at all. And things didn't work out, but especially during my thesis, I did not do well with my advisor. Partly, maybe it was my fault. Maybe because I did procrastinate. One of the biggest issues with my thesis, which in retrospect, looking at one of the journals that I talked about, my thesis, is very clear, is that I try to chew too much. I'm unprogrammatically ambitious to the point that I basically accomplish nothing because I get too overwhelmed or I just can't achieve the goal, and what I'm left with is nothing because the progress I made means nothing. And that's what my thesis was for a while. And even when I finished, it still failed to meet my own the grade was like, but I also failed to meet my own expectations because I still try to chew more than I can swallow. I went from optimizing longevity to sort of like how to make sure you don't increase the risk or reduce the risk of the main cardiovascular diseases, which is still a big thing. But I finished it, but it was stressful. And the point I was trying to make, with my thesis, but I just want to say something about my thesis advisor, is that she didn't know anything about what I was studying. And although she's in the life science department, she's in epidemiology, which I think, okay, she should know, but she didn't know much. She recommended me Outlive. I think that's the best thing she's done. But other than that, she didn't. I know every time I presented some not products, but things I wrote, if it's long, she didn't read it. I talked to her afterwards when I give her what I sent, and she avoids any details, or she says stuff like, you should have done this, when I've already changed it. So it was kind of clear that she didn't read what I've sent. And then at a certain point she made an excuse like, I'm too busy. Although, like, it's kind of your job, right, as an advisor, to actually read what I'm writing, especially if she's also the one saying like, you should write this and you should send me this, but she made an excuse that, and then what kind of cemented that she definitely didn't know much about life sciences is, I think I was talking about microRNA, which is miRNA, right? But she called it mitochondrial RNA. But now it's been years, so I'm forgetting, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't my mistake. miRNA. Yeah, microRNA, right? Yeah. So it wasn't my mistake. But anyways, miRNA is microRNA. But she said mitochondrial RNA. And it's been a while now, but I mean, I still remember it. I just double checked because I got my self-confidence a bit low, but it's good that I double checked. It is microRNA. And at that point, I was thinking, Jesus, it's such a fundamental thing. I talked to someone else, my peers, and she said the same thing, but miRNA is microRNA. It's a very fundamental thing, but the fact that she didn't know that either says everything about how much she can really help me with my thesis. So that was it. I think a lot of the advices she gave me didn't apply. And that was it. But it's done. It's finished. That stressed me out a lot, but it's done. It was probably the most frustrating thing about my 3 years of study. I thought I had good. I have good relations with certain tutors, but they weren't my advisor, which sucked. Maybe it's best. Maybe I would have somehow been frustrated with them as well. I don't know, but I think that's fine. But I was talking about mental health, and one, that I finished school, so probably there's less stress. The other thing is that I finally decided to get help, which I wanted a therapist, but psychologist is fine. I have a great psychologist. She does help me. And this time in person, I prefer in person. And what was I gonna say? In person. And oh yeah. What at the end, what led me to say, okay, I'm gonna get some help, is that first of all, I struggled with the idea that I don't deserve help. I don't deserve help. I'll be honest, I still kind of do believe it. And maybe there is some truth to it because I didn't get a therapist, I got a psychologist. However, what made me decide to actually get it other ways is because of my thesis. In cardio, studying how to reduce risk of cardiovascular disease. A lot of it was behavioral. But then with behavioral change, a lot was also to do with getting support from a professional, getting help. There was a lot of statistical significance in papers that showed for people to improve their behavior, they were getting professional help and guidance and counseling or coaching, whatever it is. They were getting external help from people. And the fact that science shows getting help from people in a medical setting gives statistically significant outcomes meant that, okay, even if I don't believe I deserve help, scientifically speaking, statistically speaking, if I want some sort of better outcome, I should get help. And that's why I decided to get help. And I think even just talking really about certain problems I have, it's helped. And she tells me certain things that help me understand more about myself. One thing I realized is how much I kind of was aware, but when she says it in like a term that's like actually a thing, and then tells me how I should work on it, or what it gives me like a full definition. I understand a bit of it, but then when it's an actual technical thing, and she gives me a whole definition of it, that part of me that kind of understands something becomes a lot more clear. And I'm speaking about a certain trait I have, which is avoidant behavior. I do recognize that, especially with human interactions, I tend to choose the route of avoiding, physically avoiding, just removing myself physically from certain people. Um, and I feel like this might also be just a Japanese cultural thing. I'm not sure. But at least I was very good at being an avoidant behavior person. But then that means if I'm struggling with socializing, um, it gets worse because then I'm more prone to avoiding because socialization becomes harder or more or a daunting task. Even though part of why my mental health is probably declining is because I'm not socializing enough. Um, so, um, like talking to my psychologist kind of helped. And then, so I started to be a little bit more proactive with socializing. But what really helped me going back is the networking, because that meant I have to just put myself out there, approach someone, go, hi, I'm this. What brings you here today? What do you do? Etc. And then try to continue a conversation and learn something from them. And that basically sort of helped me get better. Although I already see a bit of regression again. I got a lot better at eye contact, but then I think eye contact's sometimes I don't make eye contact. I think certain situations where I feel a little uncomfortable or I feel like I don't need to bother making eye contact, I do less. But then sometimes still thinking like, oh, I'm not making enough eye contact, so I make eye contact. I think I got better at eye contact, shaking hands, and just talking. So yeah, I think that's better. So yeah, so there's still points to improve, and so a lot of what I've been talking with the psychologist is working on avoidant behavior. I've actually had coaching a bit before, but I was short, and I basically try to do all my problems. Every week we were talking, or every session we were talking, I bring up a new problem. And the issue with that was I didn't fix anything. I was just bringing up problems and not really work on them. So this time with, a psychologist, and more frequent meetings, I decided I want to work on one issue at a time. I think also the way my psychologist, approached it is she focusing on one problem at a time as well. So I like that, so I can focus on one thing at a time. And towards the end of the year, especially after networking, I feel that my avoidant behavior thing has started to improve. So I finally started bringing up a new issue, which until I knew it was a problem, but until I brought it up with my psychologist, I didn't. The way she reacted made me realize like, oh shoot, yeah, it is a big problem. It's my phone addiction. I'm already improving, but when I brought it up, I was spending 15 hours on average, which is crazy. It's also because I don't have study. I don't really have work right now. So I got to a point where I'm just on my phone, and that led to like 15 hours. So, yeah. So, but then I guess I kind of realized, but I also didn't realize. She's like, wait, that's like such a big issue for the avoidant behavior. I was like, oh yeah. And she's like, why didn't you bring it up? And in my head, I was thinking, that's just an independent problem that I can move on to next. But I guess I could have brought it up during avoidant behavior as well. Um, so, but now that's, I think, sort of phone addiction, being unproductive. That's also the thing. My theme for that issue is more to do with unproductivity than avoidant behavior, although they're related, right? Because escapism. But now I'm moving on to unproductive behavior, and I think it's great that she already gave me stuff to work on, which is one of them is to think of different activities that are productive that can replace using my phone. I think this is one example, actually. But anyways, anywho, is that it? So, I guess that's kind of it was a long recap, but that's kind of the recap of 2024. So a lot of things that I said I was gonna do, I'm achieved or I'm on still working on it, which I would say is pretty decent. Um, since 2021, I think. Since 2021, every year I look back and I was thinking, damn, I need to get better. This sucks. And but I was thinking like 2024, how was 2024? I would say there are still a lot of issues. If some people look at how I spend my time last year, the first thing that comes to people's mind will probably be wasteful, and that is one because of phone addiction, right? But wasteful. I 2024 I wasn't really productive, but I would say everything that I'm trying to do, I have made steps. Like with networking and jobs, now I have such a clear idea of what sort of path I want to take career-wise, at least for now. I know about the companies. I know people, and I can talk to, and I'm talking to, you know, and mental health. I'm talking to psychologists, working on things. One other thing I realize I am enjoying and is actually very good for myself is recording my financial transactions. Every week since July, I have been recording my spending in one sheet, and I categorize it and everything. And then on the second sheet, based on the category, I do like a monthly analysis of how much fundamentals I'm spending, how much fun I'm spending, how much future capital I'm spending, basically. And there's like total spending, there's proportion, all that relative to the month. Throughout July to December, I've been like tweaking, improving the analysis, and I also did quarterly analysis. And then I think tomorrow I'll do an annual analysis, which surprisingly I'm excited for. So, that's something that can come in handy. Using Excel, one of the big things this year was it's Google Sheets, but using Google Sheets and doing different formulas, which I didn't realize I have fun doing it. I also made a Google Sheets for basically planning my future. So in 2024, the video of New Year's, I talked about, I need to do more research in countries and like universities. I did all that. I made like a whole Google Sheets. And currently, at least, I'm interested in Switzerland. ETH sounds like maybe I shouldn't have said that, but a school in Switzerland sounds like cool. And studying biotech. Because I kind of want to start a biotech business. Because one other thing I've learned in 2024 is to start working more on my finances and what basically building wealth really means. And one is that I started studying very incremental steps, but also started studying more on investment. Also, end of 2023, I invested a bit in S&P. But 2024, I got to see how my investment moves, which maybe doesn't teach me too much, but it gave me sort of a visual, right, of what investing is like. But also I started incrementally studying actual investment, how investing works. And I also learned about how I shouldn't just focus on work as a source of income. I mean, I was going to invest already, but I didn't realize that there are different forms of source of income. One is work, but there's also the idea of ownership, which comes in the form of investment or also owning a job. So that was one reason I thought, owning a job, owning a company, owning a business. I was thinking, okay, that's interesting. And then during networking, talking to these biotech people, and also me personally, I've always done pretty good when, although I procrastinate a lot, if that could be improved, I do pretty well doing things for myself. I'm very good at setting goals and sort of working towards certain stuff, working hard for myself. Sort of, a little ambivalent because of procrastination, but I'm very good at doing stuff by myself. And I feel like that exemplifies what it means to start your own company, to be your own manager. It makes sense. Of course, I also have obligations and stuff. And I like creativity. I want to do something big. I want to have an idea. For a long time, I thought doing something big as a biologist means just doing a bunch of different research. But I feel that it's more impactful if I actually have a business that actually provides the end goal of the research, which is a product of the research, instead of just doing research and discovering something. But that's what I want to do. Through the business, I want to provide a platform for research as well. So, although I also want to do a bit of lab work, I want to really have a holistic understanding of what the operations within a biotech and possibly pharma. So now I have a more tangible vision, which is cool. So yeah. And another thing, I didn't talk much about film and art, so I'll quickly talk about it. One other thing in 2024 I want to mention is that I made a bunch of videos here on it, but I went to an international film festival. They showed different series of films, which was interesting. The movie Hanatakushi might be the best movie I watched last year. Although I've watched a lot of movies this year, a lot of series. So I have a few. The most recent one, Late Night with the Devil. I think that was great. But anyways, the other thing with film and arts, I started learning Blender, although I'm already kind of not doing that right now. That's something I need to get back into. I started learning Blender, and I've made 3 very small art projects because certain things came in my head. I was like, oh, I should produce this. So I posted it on YouTube. So I made 3 art projects in Blender. Hopefully I can make more in the future. And yeah, so that was sort of a very messed up timeline here and there, but that was sort of the recap of 2024. And the way I would describe 2024 is that my wheel was rusty, and it's still a little rusty, but it started turning. I feel that I'm sort of in the right trajectory in 2024. To me, it seems like I'm doing everything in the right direction. Not procrastination, but even that, I'm working on it right now. And it's like I'm going in the right direction. I'm just going slow. So this year, I want to pick up speed, which is, to me, kind of crazy because even in the past, I feel like every year it's like, okay, my New Year's resolution is something new because there were certain failures. It's something new. But this year is the first year that I'm thinking, okay, I just continue what I started. I just have to do more of it, which is, I think, great. So the more I think about that, the more positive I am because it's like, wow, I'm on the right track. And then this is such a pro-Telos mentality. So it's good to step back a bit and go, okay, anti-Telos. Not everything is about goal. Not everything is going to move linearly. There's going to be dynamism. There's going to be change. But I do hope that I can continue progressing. Because I recognize that the anti-Telos mentality is also a form of avoidant behavior, to not work on myself. That's the truth, I think. Although there's contradictory layers, because at the same time there's truth to anti-Telos. Because it is true that life isn't linear. There is change. And it helps me anticipate change, even if it's a little bit. Anticipate change. One change being, this month is the last month I'm gonna live here. It's I don't know what's gonna happen. I already have in mind. One friend said I might be able to stay at their place for a week. Another friend said I can probably stay there for a bit as well. So 2 weeks at least. I don't know where I'm gonna stay, but I want to move. I want to move to a different city. I'm done with this city. I've been shit talking it for a long time. It sucks. I bought a bike this year, a nice bike. Chained it, was parked right in front of my house. It still got stolen. I live in a shit neighborhood. There's drunk people fighting. I've had someone like walking towards me, and I cross the road, and the person follows me and starts crossing the road at like 12 a.m. I had other people follow me. Just not nice. There were shooting incidents, like people died near where I live. It's not great. And yeah, I don't like it. And the landlord scammed me. I don't really like my roommates. I'm annoyed by the new ones. I just need to be in a new place. And although it kind of sucks that I can't extend my contract because since I don't have a sustainable source of income, which is high, I don't think I can find a place to stay. Um, so I'm essentially not going to have a house, roof under my head. But I'm also thinking there must be cheap hotels in cities that are not really, you know, close to the main ones. And I want to live in a city that's sort of in between the two cities that I've been going to events, because those are also the science parks, basically, because that's where all the opportunity is for me. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. It's gonna be a big change, and this, I guess, in a way it's linear, in a way it's not linear, in a way it's regressive, right? But I think it's change. It's time. I'm gonna put all these stuff in a storage unit. I already talked to some storage unit, so yeah. But anyways, and then I guess I'm gonna talk about my future plans, resolutions, sort of. But first, now that I talked about basically 2024, this is a long one. I'm gonna talk about what I did for New Year's. I went to Cuba last year. That was great. This year, it was a lot more tame. I didn't really go anywhere special. Well, it was a nice place. I went because it was a friend's place. It was just two of us. We made some Japanese sort of food for New Year's. Ozoni. That was great. We also had soul man. And then I made some Japanese sandwiches. I really like them, but I don't know if my friends say it's good, but I can never tell, when your friend says your food is good. And that's one thing. Yeah, I don't really cook for other people. I cook for my tongue. So maybe that's something I could work on. That's not really my goal, but yeah. Anyways, it was fun. I got to see. I usually. No, I've seen fireworks in New Year's before, but this time was pretty crazy. I went to a place where there's a lot more fireworks. Got to see the fireworks. I went to a beach on the day. I didn't go swimming, but my friend went into the water for a bit. So yeah, it was nice. And just ate. We did some karaoke. Great, because I wanted to do karaoke. And yeah, it was a good start of the year. I feel positive, which is great, because I often don't feel positive, and the fact that I'm kind of feeling good means possibly things are gonna go down, because my mood fluctuates a lot, but maybe things are different. We'll see. Another thing, but that's it. That's New Year's, and I just came home from my friend's place, and then recording this. So yeah. What else? Yeah, so that's it. So now, 2025, with the theme of Telos, although Anti-Telos in the background. Memento Anti-Telos. Memento Anti-Telos? Is that the title of the video? I don't know. So, what are my goals, expectation? 2025, I really need to find a job. Also because I have an orientation year that ends in July. So I have about half a year left to find a job. I'm gonna continue the hospitality work until I know for sure I get a full-time job. But there was something weird the government did where if you're not working in a management position, you can't work as a freelancer or something. But my agency found a way around it, so I can still technically work as a freelancer, but now I have to pay for the taxation services, which is kind of like what, you know? Like, I'm already doing my taxes, um, and I'm okay with it, but because of this stupid government rule, I have to pay for a service that does taxes for me. It's like, mm, it sucks, but I think it's still better than employment income, I believe. So it's fine. But yeah, so I'll do that. What else? What else? What else? Yeah. So it's not a goal, but I hope I get my ideal situation is I get the job that I have an interview next week, um, which is 40 hours per week. And then there's the other job that might be iffy, but it's only 10 hours and still good, pretty good income, for a side job, I would say. 10 hours per week. That is more business side. It's more of a BD role. While the full-time one is a logistics. So that means I get to see two perspectives on the biotech sphere. Or the other one is a CDMO, but that's also something I really want to look into, because that's where the actual lab research happens. So I get to have two different perspectives in the sphere of this industry, and I feel like that would be such an awesome opportunity while getting pretty decent income if I'm able to. So that's my ideal situation, that I get this job and I get this side job. And then I move to a city between these two big science parks. If that happens, wow, I am gonna be pretty happy. Um, but chances are maybe I don't get this full-time job. Then possibly I get at least the BD job, but that might not be enough, so I'll still do part-time. Well, while I'm gonna look for a full-time job still. But either ways, in that situation, I don't have to do something with my orientation yet. I think I'll be able to get a proper work visa. However, there's also a case that that job doesn't come around. In that case, I would still have the freelance work, at least. But that's not going to be enough income. So I have a friend, actually from uni. We never really talked too much in uni, but after we graduated, we're talking more. He lives right around the corner, sort of. And he works at a different agency. And he says there's more shifts there. And it's decent hourly rate. So starting this year, I'm going to apply to there and work there as well, while I wait. Even if I get the full-time job, it's going to start from February or March. So during this month, I still have to make some sort of decent income, I feel. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's the plan. So full-time job and full-time job and a full-time job and huh? What am I saying? But anyways, yeah. But then yeah, with the if I'm part time, if I'm either only doing part time with the freelance and the employment hospital. Basically, if I'm still in hospitality, I'm gonna still look for a full time job. If I'm doing freelance in the BD job, I'm still gonna look for a full time life sciences job, and hopefully, I can still end up have a full time biotech, pharma, CAR DMO job, and a BD, and I live there. Worst case scenario, worst case scenario, I go back to Japan. At least I get to be I get to be in a familiar place. I get to see my dog. But I really don't want to go back to live, to visit, of course. The other option, my grandma said, come here and be a high school teacher. I like teaching. I think I am good at it. Well, at least I was good at it. Maybe it's somewhere to start, but ideally I don't want to. But we'll see. Maybe that's a good backup. I don't know. But then if I'm gonna go there, maybe I'll just go back to Japan. I don't know. I'm gonna keep fighting here. I'm gonna keep fighting. Hopefully start something here. We'll see. We'll see. Get a job. That's basically my main goal. That I get to that position. And then 3 years time, I do want to move to Switzerland or somewhere, but it depends. But anyways, what are some other goals, right? I want to be more financially savvy, so I want to continue. This is great using the word continue because I'm already doing it. I want to continue recording my financial transactions, making better analysis. Right now, it's my own personal analysis, but I want to actually do proper bookkeeping and recording all my assets. It doesn't really make sense to record all my assets, I think, right now, because technically I have a PC. Oh, and yeah, I have some items that are kind of expensive, but I don't really have income, so, I will be sad if I lost everything, but it's not, it's devastating, but it's not the level of assets that I would really record. So yeah. So I want to continue that, but I want to advance my analysis. And so I bought a book on understanding cash flow as a real estate investor, sort of, I think. That was the title of the book. And speaking of books, that's one other thing that I want to read more. I bought physical books. I don't like stories. I don't like reading stories, but I like reading like information, non-fiction information. And I need to find ways to improve my phone addiction. So one way I'm gonna do is read books. So I got a book on becoming more financially savvy. I'm also interested in cryptography, code breaking. I'm currently trying to make this encryption method where you can write something and then transform it into a whole DNA sequence. And if you know how to read where something gets translated, you can essentially translate a DNA text into a sentence, English sentence that's legible. So I'm working on it. technically finished, but it didn't work out. So maybe I made a mistake somewhere, I'm not sure. It works for like the first line of the sentence or first few words, and then it goes kind of weird. So I need to look into that. But I'm into cryptography, code breaking, so I bought a book on that. I also bought a book on by Joseph Campbell, A Hero with a Thousand Faces, because I like story writing. I don't like reading stories, although I like watching stories. But I would like to read about stories, because I want to write more stories and really actually write a story. So, A Hero with a Thousand Faces, I talked about the dilemma of wanting to become a director, writer, where the more you learn, the more you get certain expertise on this department, there's a risk of me losing my creativity, uniqueness, because I conform. However, it gets to a point that I think it's fine that I conform at a certain level. One, because I'm not doing anything anyways. I feel that if I study something, I find ways to really big kind of move forward. And the other thing is there's space and time for me to go full chaos and abstract and just put my brain onto a film and not make sense. It's fine. But I also want to make something that makes sense for other people. And that means I do have to conform a bit. And I think that's fine. It's okay. Because if I conform, I can also possibly write something more interesting. Because as much as writing a story, expressing art is something for myself, it is an activity that often includes an audience. And to some extent, I feel that it is fine that I cater to an audience that's not myself. So that's why I chose to get the book A Hero with a Thousand Faces. Another book is to do with AI. AI is one thing I learned in the seminars is that AI is simply the future, at least in the life sciences. I believe there is a lot of plateauing already, and language models, possibly in other departments of other sectors, but in life sciences, it's only the beginning. I learned about AlphaFold, right? That's the Nobel Prize, Nobel show, Nobel, fuck, what the fuck, I forgot, was it Nobel Prize? Nobel Prize, anyways, AlphaFold, amazing technology. I also learned about de novo generation, and I remember someone talking about how in the future lab research is going to be more on the computer because AI is going to simulate. And one thing that is on my mind about business, which I kind of talked about, I think, is creating a biotech or CRDMO or something that revolutionizes efficiency, because one of the biggest issues in the industry is efficiency. That's why there's so much cost that prices become expensive. But I believe the cost really comes down to inefficiency in clinical trials. So if I can find a way to improve that, maybe that's good. Although that could either put a if the thing is, like, maybe I can't find it, but if I could figure that out, that could possibly put a target on my back for people who are really profiting off high cost drugs. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just invites more competition and more efficient production of products. And although the cost goes down, the price maintained, I'm not sure. But then, even if that's the case, it would still give more opportunity for ethical producers to possibly reduce the price. Because if the cost is high, even the ethical producers can't really reduce that much of the price unless they're, like, sacrificing too much. So I don't know, I feel like efficient production. And then anyways, AI, one, it's the future, and the other, I feel like, in the avenue of making clinical trials more efficient, possibly AI might be involved. So anyways, I want to learn more about deep learning. So I bought a book for beginners about deep learning. So that is kind of what I'm going to do. So reduce my phone time by reading more. That's another thing, 2024. And I also kind of gamified being more productive, because I've been doing scheduling, but it hasn't really worked out for me. It was working for a while, but then it just stopped working. So then I thought, okay, one thing that really stuck with me this year is the bookkeeping. And one reason I believe the bookkeeping has been successful is because I can really visualize what I'm doing. Yeah. Visualize what I'm doing, or in the context of, like, financial transactions. I know how much money I'm spending on. It's so clear to me now, like, how much. And then because of that, I can reduce my spending by quite a lot. So I was thinking, okay, maybe if I list all the productive activities I want to do, give them a weighted score out of 100, and then every day, if I record what activities I'm doing and give myself a score, doing everything in Excel, of course, because that's fun, then I could visualize how productive I'm actually am. Quantify how productive I am, and therefore I could see a vision of, like, okay, I gotta improve from this score moving forward. And so that's what I'm already started from 2 days ago, because it's still the same week, I guess. But that's what I'm starting with. So yeah. And then other things, work on Blender, art, film, If I get a place of my own, I do want to start. I want to make a mesocosm, grow plants, and have some sort of insect terrarium. I'm thinking pill bugs, potato bugs, whatever they're called. And I guess they come with usually the soil, but springtails to start off with. I want to start building my collection of insects and plants, which I don't know how I'm gonna do it when I move, because I plan to move a lot, but maybe I'll just sell them off or figure something out. Or if it's moving within Europe, I could possibly just transfer them. Physically, it won't be that bad. By car or something. So yeah, I think that's what. Oh, and I guess investing. If I'm gonna have a job, actually, get a steady source of income in an ideal situation where I actually do get enough pretty decent income and I continue to stay minimalist and frugal, and be savvy with my spending, that means I will have quite a bit of money to invest. So I'll want to be able to invest. That's my goal. And also save. Start saving, investing for moving to Switzerland. I would say the first future expenditure I want to do is emergency fund. I want that stability of emergency fund. So that's what I'll do. But I think that's it. So yeah, that's my 2025. That would be interesting to see. Yeah. I think that's it. That would be cool. This was really long, but I guess I did have a lot to say about last year, this upcoming year. And as much as hope is not the best thing, because it's just a setup to push you down, I kind of am hopeful, positive. But I hope the falls that are going to come, if they come, I hope the falls are not too painful. I hope. We'll have to see. But that's it. So yeah. We'll see. Oh, and gym. Continue good diet, gym. Yeah. Gym. And I feel like even if I can't completely get my shit together, although that's my goal in 2025, I'm on the right path to getting my shit together, which is, it's frustrating when it's kind of slow, but at least I'm moving forward. So, but Anti-Telos, Memento Anti-Telos, for sure.